Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Toon Under Pod, the top 20 of all football podcasts, audio football podcasts in Australia. I am Jack in Brisbane. We're here to talk about the big game at Leeds this weekend for Newcastle. But before we do that, we'll say hello to Dimmy in Melbourne. How you doing, Dimmy?
Good, mate. It's Thursday night here, so only another day, and then the big game on the weekend. So getting excited to see an early kickoff. Not one of those stupid Monday morning 2:30 a.m. games. It's prime time for us, 9:30 on a Saturday. So can't wait.
It always feels like a long week when Newcastle have lost as well. So the start of the week just drags, and then you're getting towards it. And like you say, it's an early kickoff, which actually hasn't been good for Newcastle this season. We've only had two of them, and we've lost them both. So hopefully we're going to buck that trend this weekend. We've got Craig in Mackay. How are you, Craig?
I'm going canny, mate. I'm looking forward to this podcast and the game of the weekend. It should be a cracker.
It should be a cracker. Before we talk about the game, I'm just going to do a little shout out. We've got meetups going on all across Australia for this. As Dimmy said, it's an early kickoff, so 9:30 on the East Coast, I think 7:30 in Perth, Saturday night prime time. It's absolutely perfect. So in Melbourne, if you want to go to Melbourne and see Dimmy take his shirt off, he'll be in the Sherlock Holmes Inn in Melbourne with Keegan as well. Keegan's going along to that one. The boys in Sydney are going to Cheers Bar as usual. Perth, the Hill Street Sports Bar and Restaurant, where the Perth Mags will be there. And then the fake Newcastle, the Blackbird Hotel, there's going to be a meetup there as well. And of course, in Brisbane, we'll be at the Pig and Whistle. I think me and Mark are going to be at that one. Like I said, we don't have a good record on the meetups. We've lost both of the early kickoffs this season, and I think we drew one and lost one or lost two last season as well. So we need to make sure we can win this. Otherwise, we'll have to stop doing meetups until we manage to actually win one. But if you're in Australia and if you want to go and watch the game with some Magpies, then there's always a lot that goes to Melbourne and Sydney, and we usually have around 30 or so at Brisbane as well. We start to see some familiar faces. So get yourself along, come along and say hello, and we'll hopefully catch up with as many people as possible there. Craig, you haven't yet set up the Mackay branch of Newcastle United supporters, have you?
Nah, it's on my to-do list. It'll get done soon, and it'll all be starting for when we're in the Champions League. Sorry, Keegan, but I'll mention that word next season.
Have you actually met any of the Newcastle fans in Mackay yet?
There's a few. I was speaking to one lad yesterday. Walked in with, the fourth kit that we had to wear at Brighton.
Oh, yeah, the training top.
Training kit, yeah, the training top.
I was like, that's a fairly unusual set around, to be honest. Walked in, had a chat with him. He was from Denton Burn.
Oh, yeah. That's
so,
mad,
a bit of a strange one. And there's one other lad who I actually just wandered into wearing a Newcastle top, just walking through a shopping centre. And, yeah, he had Gamaras on the back, started talking, and then I got served by his wife at a restaurant, which is a bit strange. But Mackay's a small town, but there's a few around.
I reckon it's going to start happening more and more. Like the better we get, I think we're going to start seeing more black and white shirts popping up. We'll have to make sure let everyone know that we've lived through the bad times and we're not glory supporters. Yeah, we need to make sure people know that it's very, very important.
Absolutely.
They can tell by me because I've got no hair anyway, so that's obvious. All right, so before we get into it as well, I just want to give another request for subscribers for YouTube. We've been going pretty well lately, but we need to keep the subscribers going up. And if you like the audio as well, give us a comment and a rating on audio. It all helps with the algorithms, which help us to grow. So that's really good. So this game against Leeds, this is another massive game. I was re-listening to the podcast that we did on the run-in. The three of us did that. And I was talking about how we had 12 cup finals to go. An absolute cliche in football. We've had 8 of them. We've won 6 and we've lost 2. So we've been doing pretty well. The team that couldn't stop drawing before this little run now doesn't draw at all. We only either win or we've lost a couple. This is a massive game at Elland Road for both clubs. Let's just have a quick little flash up of the league table. Because obviously we're fighting out for Champions League at the top, and with a chance of top 4 and with a good chance of top 4. Leeds are now 19th after last weekend's games. They're 2 points adrift of Everton, who've got 32 points. Leeds and Leicester have both got 30 points. That was a crazy, crazy round of games on Monday. It was a bank holiday in the UK, but there was 21 goals across 3 games down there. Leeds had already lost to Man City, which we're going to talk about. But did either of you see any of the highlights or watch anything of those games, relegation games at the weekend?
I seen the Everton Brighton highlights, and that was probably one of the shock results of the season. That you think not many teams go to the Amex and get a win, let alone an absolute annihilation of the home team. That's for sure. And not a team of Everton anyway. That's the first time they've scored 5 goals away from home in about 4 years. I think I heard on Sky Sports. So definitely caught Brighton on an off day. And the other day, I think you would be less surprised if the result was the other way around. That's for sure.
It's that time of year where weird results start happening. I remember saying this a few weeks ago on the podcast as well. You always get to this stage of the season and there's just always like really strange results start getting thrown up because you've got a number of teams who have got nothing to play for. And then you've got other teams who are fighting for something and who start to feel the pressure a bit. And you always get these crazy results. But I don't think anybody saw that Everton result. You know, they've been conceding a lot of goals. But there were signs when they played against Leicester, actually, that they were starting to look all right going forward. But it's the most un-Sean Dyche kind of performance to go and beat a good team as well. Go and beat a good team. But it made me we'll talk about Brighton in future with playing them next week. But it made me feel a bit better about playing them at St James's soon as well. It looks like they're running out of gas a bit, Dimmy.
Yeah, I think they are. But looking at the highlights of that game, I did watch the mini match on Optus. Brighton still had a fair few chances. Pickford did make 2 or 3 cracking saves, and I mean some of Brighton's defending was shambolic. So I mean, fair play to Everton. They took their chances. They probably caught Brighton by surprise. Brighton coming off a huge win against Man United probably a week before that. So they might be coming to an end in terms of their run, which suits us well coming up against them next week. But yeah, the results were wild. The game that I saw which was crazy, was Leicester Fulham. Some of the goalkeeping in that game was just atrocious. I mean, to go from Kasper Schmeichel to whoever they've got at the moment, Leicester, that could be the reason why they're going to go down as well. That was just some abhorrent goalkeeping.
Yeah, and that's another team that we've got to play soon at St James's. So that's it does bode well. But like I said, you get these mad results. Leicester look like they'd kind of given up. And James Maddison actually came out and said that he said it was in the heat of the moment after the game, but he said something about how it was the players lacked hunger or something. And you thought when you heard him say that, that's a bit dodgy. You can't it's good that he's being honest about it, but the fans are not going to like that. You know, one of the players basically admitting that. So they might be a nice team for us to play. But yeah, the reason we're kind of talking about these teams is because Leeds are right in the thick of this relegation battle. Like I said, 2 points adrift. They've got to play us, and then they've got West Ham away, and they've got Spurs at home. They're probably going to need 4 points maybe out of those games. So we'll talk about how they might set up and what they might do now they've got Allardyce at the helm in this game and what they did against Man City. But first of all, I just want to have a little think back to the first time we played Leeds this season. It was a very frustrating 0-0 draw. It was on New Year's Eve in the UK. I think it was 1 o'clock on New Year's Day or something for us. And it was a game, I can't remember who remembers much about that game, because it was very frustrating one for us, wasn't it? Dimmy, you're nodding your head there.
I do, because I remember I was on the boat watching the fireworks, trying to watch the game as well, and just casually, not my boat, but I was on a boat, and I remember the chances we had that game there was obviously a lot of chances, but it was one of those games where we just wouldn't get anything on target. I think Longy had 2 or 3 chances that he skied from a great position. I think Joe Linton had a similar chance. I mean, Leeds had their moments. Leeds were decent. They weren't as we went into that game obviously on a high and confident that we're going to win because we beat Leicester just before away from home. So we're confident, but it was one of those games where nothing was going on target. They were wasting time. We were getting frustrated, and it just didn't go for us that day. It was one game I do remember Longstaff copying a lot of heat after the game, probably from yours truly as well. Some of his finishing was a little bit below par, but yeah, it was a game that we had enough chances. The old XG wankers, here we are, but we had plenty of chances, but just didn't take our chances.
It should have been about 3-0 comfortably, that one. And like you said, Longstaff did miss some. And this was probably the first game that I can remember there being quite a meltdowny kind of reaction on Twitter and social media after this game, because people were very disappointed about it. But Craig, I don't know if you remember that there was this game, and then 3 or 4 days later, we went to Arsenal. Basically, did what Leeds did to us. Although that we were worth the draw, I think, in that Arsenal game. But then that Arsenal result made this Leeds result not seem too bad. The Leeds game felt like a defeat, but the Arsenal game felt a bit like a win. So it was sort of evened out, Craig, by then, wasn't it?
It absolutely was, yeah. And the season's never won over one game. The reason it's 38 games long, and this season is slowly coming to a close. But I don't know how this game is going to pan out. I was asking my mate Dan, who's a previous guest and a massive Leeds fan, and he's no idea what Leeds are going to do in this game. He's been asking around all the other forums, and they just don't have a clue. No idea what formation, what way Big Sam's going to go or anything. It's going to be a bit of a strange one because it's an unknown, and they put a decent show against Man City. Obviously, Erling Haaland's got a soft spot for Leeds, so he gave up that penalty, which was a stupid idea. But yeah, it's a strange one in that game, as you mentioned, on New Year's Day. I was doing the watch along that with Lee. Lee was pissed. It was just after New Year. Dex was on, Mark was on. We were all a bit giddy before kickoff, and it just went flat because, as Dimmy said, we didn't take our chances. And it was, I wouldn't necessarily say it was 2 points dropped, but it was definitely 1 point gained. You're always going to get games like that as the season goes on. But yeah, the result at Arsenal did kind of put a smile back on everyone's faces.
Yeah, it was a big anticlimax, that game, but you kind of look at what happened after that, and we went on that run where we only beat Fulham in, I think it was 7 games, and the Fulham was a last-minute winner as well. So it was that period of time where people were starting to worry a bit about scoring goals. Apart from me and Dimmy, obviously, because we're XG wankers, and we knew we were going to score eventually. But there was another game against Leeds, which will go down in folklore for Newcastle, because it was that game, the second win for Eddie Howe, and it was the game that really kickstarted our push towards survival. And this was the last time we played at Elland Road, and it was last season. And this is the lineup that we had that day. So the reason I'm getting this up is just to compare it to what we've got now. So that day, which was in January 2022, it was 16 months ago now, we had Dubravka in goal. We had Paul Dummett at left back, which I'd forgotten about. There was Fabian Schär, there's Lascelles, Trippier. One of the games Trippier played before he got injured, actually, and missed the rest of the season. Midfield of Joe Linton and Shelby and Willock, and a forward line of St. Maximan, Chris Wood, and Ryan Fraser. What's your sort of abiding memories, Craig, about that game? And what do you think when you look at that team compared to what, the team that we're likely to put out this weekend?
Well, if I remember rightly, the team that went out there was very actually similar to the one that got out 5-2 the season before, minus Chris Wood and Kieran Trippier. So it was all okay. So that was in the back of my mind. Oh, here comes another drubbing type thing. But it just wasn't. We were actually very calm and composed that game. We absorbed a lot of pressure from Leeds, as we knew we would do. It was a late night kickoff, I think, in the UK. So the Elland Road crowd was always going to be up for it after a few beers after work or whatever it was. But yeah, it was a tough game. We rode it out, and that was the turning point for our season under Eddie Howe. Absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Dimmy, this one was a bit of a special one for you, wasn't it? What were you doing?
Yeah, so happened to remember my wedding night. So I think kickoff was, from memory, about 2 a.m. in Melbourne. So I did manage to to watch the game in the bathroom of the hotel room after the wedding, which was nice. And the missus obviously was asleep, not knowing that I was watching the game, but that's okay. It was interesting. I mean, from memory, I think the first half were not hanging on, but Leeds had most of the ball. Dubravka made a couple of saves, and it was one of those games that I never thought we looked like we're going to win watching the game. We looked like we were hanging on. It was the first goal was going to be crucial. And then obviously John Joe gets that daisy cutter in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as he scored that, I thought, yeah, we're on here. And obviously what a moment it was and how important it was for the rest of the season.
Yeah. And I listened back to the podcast that we did after this actually to refresh myself. And it was interesting because they were talking about Sean Longstaff, who was on the bench for this game. Because this game came just after that Watford one where we threw away that lead, and it was looking like we were going to get relegated. It really was. We'd only won one game, and it was well into January, and this did kickstart it. But there was a lot of negativity towards Longstaff because of how he played against Watford. And I'm a big fan of Longstaff, but I never even thought he was going to turn it around the way he has. But it's just funny that this weekend we're worried that he's probably not going to be playing. And last time we didn't want him to be playing. So it just shows you how players can turn things around. But that was a massive game. And big John Joe will always go down fondly, I think, for Newcastle fans for that, his role in that. And after this game, we went off to Saudi Arabia as well for 2 weeks. So
yes,
if we hadn't have won this, it would have been a very different trip, I think, that they'd have had. So yeah, that was a memorable one. The last time we were at Elland Road. So Leeds this season they've been through a really kind of chaotic time. Obviously they came up with Bielsa, they stayed up quite well, and then the wheels fell off a little bit under him. Jesse Marsh was brought in. He was sacked in February when Leeds were 17th. And then Javi Gracia, who used to be at Watford, he took over. Had a little bit of an upturn initially, and they were doing all right. I think he got 8 points from his first 4 games or something like that. But then they suffered some bad defeats. They got hammered by Palace and hammered by Liverpool and by Bournemouth as well. And then he was sacked. So here comes Big Sam, 15 years after he was at Newcastle. Our fond memories of Big Sam Allardyce. Here he comes into Leeds. I don't know. It's you look at that and you just laugh, really, don't you? Like you see Roy Hodgson come back and do a good job at Palace, but Allardyce has been out of the game. I think it was about 4 years now since he was at West Brom and they got relegated. He only won 4 out of 21 games there or something in his time, and he got relegated because he was hailed as this savior who guarantees you to not get relegated. But Craig, have Leeds just pressed the panic button here? Have they just thought, what can we do here? We need to do something, anything that might possibly get us these points. And they've pressed the big, fat, red panic button of Sam Allardyce.
That's a big old panic button as well, isn't it? I mean, how far down the list of managers must you have gotten to get to Sam Allardyce? I mean, the man is the biggest dinosaur on the yard, isn't he? He really is. I mean, I'm just waiting for Mark Hughes and Tony Pulis to come out of retirement now, and then we've got literally the whole old group back together again. Just, I don't understand the methodology in thinking, right, let's get Big Sam on, because his tactics, as we know, are outdated. He's just he'll hump the ball up the pitch and he'll get 11 men behind the ball. Yes, Leeds need points, but most importantly, they need wins. And Sam Allardyce doesn't build teams that go out and win games comfortably or anything. They scrape draws. And if they did, they used to kick 7 shades of shit out of you like they did at Bolton and just were a good team at home at the Reebok. But that was the only time he's had anything decent. Newcastle was crap. West Ham was crap. England, he got done for fraud or whatever it was. He's not a very, very good manager. And like I said, that list must have been a good 325 foot long, and he must have been at the bottom of that list. And can you imagine Sam Allardyce's face when that phone rings and it's the Leeds chairman? By the way, we want to offer you money to come and manage again. You must be thinking, is it April Fool's still? Jesus Christ, what's going on here? Because that man should not be anywhere near a football dugout as far as I'm concerned.
500 grand payment apparently, plus
What?
2 million extra if they stay up. that's what I heard. So
Jesus
not bad.
Christ.
Not bad for 3 weeks' work, is it? Would you get out of bed for that money, Dimmy?
Absolutely. That's it's ridiculous money, to be honest. But like Craig said, you don't know what Leeds are thinking and how far down the chain he was. I wonder who else was requested before him. There was surely other candidates called before Big Sam, and he must have been very, very deep on that list. Maybe even Stevie Bruce got a call as well, but he must have been deep on that list, surely.
I was listening to, I think it was the Athletic podcast, and they were saying that Leeds, if they could have got, Rodgers or Graham Potter or someone, they probably would have done that if they could, but they were probably, not keen on taking over a club in that position. So they've just taken the nuclear option and they've gone for, in desperation for something that they think might work. But it's very hard to know what's going to happen. It's really hard to predict what the kind of football his teams usually play, but it's hard to see how he marries up with that Leeds squad as well, which has been built by Bielsa and Jesse Marsh for their kind of high octane, pressing, attacking, chaotic style of football. So it's really interesting to see how this goes for Allardyce. Leeds have conceded 69 goals this season, which is the worst in the league. And that's almost 2 per game. And they've conceded 4 or more goals on 6 occasions, including 4 times in the last 8 games. Ouch. So they were leaking goals. They were absolutely leaking goals. Do you think it's as simple, Dimmy, as them just thinking, we need to just get someone in who can organise this rabble into something that's going to stop us conceding so many goals?
Yeah, I think so. I think their thinking is, look, I don't know how quickly he can teach defensive structure, but if he can keep it solid and they can get a few draws, maybe a few draws will be enough. Well, now they're in the relegation zone, so they need wins, like Craig said. But I think they're playing the odds that, look, if they play open, expansive football, this team doesn't have the confidence or the ability to do that for the last couple of games. They're going to have to try something different, and something different might be lump the ball forward, kick the shit out of the opposition, and try and snatch a goal from a set piece.
Yeah, so they played Man City, which is obviously the hardest possible game for a new manager to come into. It was 2-1. So on the face of it, that's quite a respectable result. Although there's quite a lot of context in that Man City had a penalty with about 10 minutes to go, which Haaland should have taken, but he gave it to Gundogan, who was on a hat-trick, which didn't work, and then Leeds went and scored. But if you look at the stats from this game, which we're going to do now, because this is all we've really got to go off. We've got nothing else to go from than this game for how Leeds might set up. Man City had 80.9% possession. I've never seen above 80% possession, I don't think, in a Premier League match before. So yeah, they had pretty much 81% possession. They had 18 shots to Leeds 4. They had 1,032 touches to Leeds' 330, and they had almost 900 passes to Leeds 200, so four times as many passes. And they had 10 corners to 1. So this it was 2-1. Leeds scored at the end and made it a bit dodgy for Man City. There's the little XG slide for us there, Dimmy. Man City had 2.77 XG and Leeds had 0.29. So although it was 2-1 and Big Sam made a big song and dance about this, and he went and got all the players, and he was trying to sort of galvanize the crowd, I suppose, which is fine. But this could have been sort of 5 or 6-0 on a different day, and it would have been a very different outlook. But what do you think that game, Craig, that they had against Man City? What do you think that tells us about how Leeds might approach this game? You said before that you've got a friend, Dan, who isn't sure what's going to happen. Leeds need to win. Leeds need points. So what do you think he's going to do in this game?
Well, if I remember, Leeds, they're 2 points adrift from safety at the minute, if I remember right. So they need a win. So a draw might be acceptable for them because they're still going to have 2 games left to try and get that win. But there's no easy fixtures in the Premier League, as we know. So they've got to try and get that win early on. So whether they will come out and attack and try and get the crowd behind them, because that Elland Road crowd, when it's on form, is very, very good. It's very similar to Eben in terms of how visceral it can be. So that could be their 12th man effectively. But I do also think that them coming to attack us is just perfect. Because as we've seen back in early January, when they just park the bus and sit 11 men behind the ball, we find it very difficult to break teams down. So I'm hoping they do come and push. But I do, it's a big Sam team, so I'm not expecting expansive football, multi-touch passing, little back heels or anything like that. They'll try to be direct as possible and hump it up front. And hopefully Patrick Bamford will lump on the end of one and try and nick it in the last minute or whatever. But yeah, it's impossible to gauge because we don't know what to expect. Dan, like I say, he watched the whole Man City game. They went through a few different phases. They tried to put a few passes together, but Man City just overly too good for them, as you are with most. But I would like to see them play expansive football, but I just can't see it because it's Big Sam in charge rather than Jesse Marsh or that Garcia bloke who was there previously, where they did try, but they just got exposed too much at the back.
They're probably just going to pack the midfield with sort of 5 players across the midfield. And I think against Man City, it was Bamford and he was quite isolated. But it's hard because it's Man City. So, you know, most teams do that against Man City. So that's why it's hard to kind of think about what they might do. Dimmy, what do you think and what do you hope that Leeds are going to try and do in this game?
I think they're going to come out all guns blazing for the first 10 minutes. They've probably only got, to be fair, probably similar to how we felt under Bruce, they might only have 10, 15 minutes of high-octane football, and I think the first 10, 15, they're going to go for it, try and get an early goal, at least put us on the back foot, and I think if we ride that first 10, 15 minutes, it's going to be a good day for us. I just can't see how a manager can come in with players that he doesn't know, a system that obviously he's not going to play the same system as they were playing before, and organize them to the point that they're going to be so well structured and there's going to be no gaps, and it's going to be really, really difficult. Obviously, they're going to defend deep and do that, but there's going to be gaps and chances for us everywhere. You got to remember their confidence is low. They've conceded so many goals. There's not many levers he can pull, Big Sam. He's going to go the old motivational tool and get into them, lads, and get amongst it. That's probably the best he can do. So we'll see how it goes, but I think the first 10, 15, they're going to really, really go for it.
Yeah, and it's the quality of Leeds players as well, isn't it? They're just not that good. Like the players, they still have got the basis of the Bielsa's team, which itself was packed full of players who played in the Championship, and I think even League One, some of them had played. So you've got like Ayling and players like that who have been there for a long time. I saw that Adam Forshaw played for them the other day as well. I think he used to be at Middlesbrough. So they've still got the kind of basis of players like that. And then they've got a few big money signings that haven't really done that much. There's Aronson and Rutter's the other one. But they were signed by Marsh for that kind of, you know, system that is not what Big Sam usually does. So it'll just be interesting to see how he does that, and if it's just going to be a bit of a confused mess, and if we can really capitalize on that, because you think that this is what Eddie's going to be saying. He's going to be identifying ways that we can attack and what we can do in this game to get ourselves in front and try and make it as comfortable as possible. I think with it being the early game as well, the Saturday lunchtime, I think that could actually play to our advantage a bit, because Elland Road can get quite rowdy on a night game or on a late afternoon. So maybe with it being lunchtime, the crowd might not be quite as fired up as they might otherwise be. Or they might have just started drinking earlier. That's always a possibility in Leeds as well. I used to work in pubs in Leeds. I know what it's like. So yeah, really interesting to see how this one goes and how they set up. Let's have a little look at the last 5 games form. For Leeds, this is a bit sort of, it doesn't really tell as much because most of it was obviously before Allardyce, but they had that really heavy defeat to Liverpool 6-1. They lost away to Fulham 2-1. They drew at home to Leicester, which was a really big game. They had that real bad 4-1 defeat to Bournemouth, and then they had the game against Man City. Obviously, they've been leaking goals, and that's their last 5 games. Our last 5, Villa was the 5th there, which was about 3-0 defeat. And then we had that run of 3 wins in a week. There was the 6-1 v Spurs, which will just never, ever be forgotten. There was the Everton 4-1 away, which I think if you want to think about similarities of kinds of games, this could be, a similar kind of game, playing against a team scrapping at an old ground with a loud fan base. And that one went pretty well for us. Then we had the Southampton, and then we had the Arsenal game last week. So Newcastle have lost 6 games in all competitions this season. So before Arsenal, we've lost 7 now, but before Arsenal, we'd lost 6 in all competitions. And after those 6, we'd responded with 3 wins. So after losing to Sheff Wed in the FA Cup, we beat Leicester in the Cup. After losing to Man City, just after the Cup final, we beat Wolves. And after losing to Villa, obviously, we responded with that win against 6-1, a win against Spurs. So there's been 3 wins after the 6 defeats. There's been 1 draw, which was Palace after we lost to Liverpool, which was that phantom VAR joke decision. So that really should have been a win. And there's been 2 defeats. There was the Carabao Cup final after we lost to Liverpool in the league, and there was Man City after the cup final. So that was that run of 3 2-0 defeats in a row against good opposition. But those sort of responses to defeats, like, it's a small sample size because we've barely lost this season. But what do you think that tells us? Dimi, I'll come to you on that one. What do you think that tells us about our ability to bounce back from defeats?
It shows we've got a good character in the group, for sure. We've got plenty of leadership and plenty of sort of positivity around the group, that we confident in what we're doing, and we're not going to be disheartened by a defeat. I think the real telling for me was that Villa game obviously was terrible, and they beat us 3-0. Maybe it could have been more. We had that huge game against Spurs the week later, and for us to respond, obviously Spurs were dreadful, but for us to respond like that just shows you that there's not much that's going to rattle us. And that's why I'm so confident about the rest of the season, about this team. You got Eddie Howe and the whole coaching staff, the leadership group has responded all year, so there's no reason why we should doubt them now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And the more I've thought about this, because I've been obviously obsessing over it, the better I've started feeling about it as the week's gone on, which scares me a little bit. But I think that I'm getting a good feeling, and I think it is partly because of how we responded after that Villa game in a massive game against Spurs, and the way we came out there, and also that performance against Everton to back that up was really important. And like I said, I think this could be a similar kind of game. But it's now been 7 games without a clean sheet for us. We generally tend to concede 1 goal in most games. And we've only got 1 clean sheet in 16 now, which was the Man United game. So the last time we kept a clean sheet before the Man United game was against Southampton in the Cup, which feels like a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
How much of a concern, Craig, do you think is the fact that we are conceding generally 1 goal a game, considering that before the World Cup break, or we just weren't conceding goals. Even when we were drawing games, we were not conceding very much.
A lot of those early draws, though, we weren't even scoring in them either. So they were just 0-0 balls, effectively, ball draws. But we're actually scoring goals now, albeit Arsenal and Villa was a bit of a blip. I think they're the last 2 recent where we haven't scored a goal. And we're not just scoring 1 goal when we are getting 1 in. We're getting 1, we're getting 2, we're getting 3, and so on. So it's not a case of hit the panic button just yet. If we start conceding 2s and 3s consistently, then yes, absolutely. But as long as we're scoring 2 and 3 every other game, I'm happy to concede a goal, because you obviously want a clean sheet. But as long as it's not detrimental to the overall result, and the goal difference is still far superior to Man United, that is not really a cause of concern as of yet.
Yeah, the Liverpool have got, I think they're 7 goals behind us, so it would take a big swing for them to turn that around. And they've had a couple of freak results against Bournemouth and Man United, where they won 9-0 and 7-0, which is sort of bumped their goal difference up. But yeah, it was funny because we went something like a third of the season without conceding a first half goal. We conceded the first half against Wolves from Neves' shot, and then it was like months and months and months until we conceded the first half goal again. So we've gone from sort of being really watertight and having the best defense to this sort of drip situation where we're conceding one a game. But like you said, it doesn't matter like at this stage because we're scoring when we are scoring, we're scoring more than one anyway. So who cares? You know, for the rest of the season, it'd be nice to have the best defense in the league. I think we've still got it by 2 goals, but realistically, who cares as long as we get the points we need. Let's look at the Craig's home and away. Craig's little home and away slide that he's got on. So Leeds at home played 17, won 5, drawn 6, and lost 6. They've scored 23 and conceded 31. 32 yellow cards and 1 red card. 65% of their goals are from open play. 3 goals conceded from set pieces, and an average possession of 47.5%. Newcastle's away form played 17, won 8, drawn 6, and lost just 3. Scored 29, only conceded 16 goals away from home, which is just incredible, really. That's less than 1 a game. 29 yellow cards and no red cards. 72% of our goals are from open play. 5 goals conceded from set pieces, which is, 5 out of 16. That's almost a third of our goals. Away goals have been from set pieces, and with averaging possession of 50.6%. What do you think, Craig, when you look at those? Does anything there jump out at you, or think that could be something for us to think about?
Leeds' defensive record is shocking, isn't it? 31 goals in 17 games. I mean, I think you hit on over the course of the season, it's been about 2 a game, and that's not far off at home. At home, you've got to try and make a fortress. They've obviously not done that because they've lost more games than they've won. And that is going to be the downfall as to whether they stay in this league or not. And I mean, defensively from set pieces, they seem quite solid. They've conceded less than what we have, albeit we're playing away from home. But we've only conceded 16. Like you say, 1 in 3 goals effectively is coming from a set piece. So open play, we're keeping them shut out. We do like a good away win every now and again. You look at like Fulham, West Ham. They were a bit of a dribble. Was it 4-1 and 5-1 again? We conceded in that one. So yeah, it could be a game with a lot of goals. You remember the Christmas fixture where we won 4-3 with Nobby Solano getting the winner at the 94th minute, I think it was, and Sir Bobby's doing backflips on the touchline, sent us top of the table that game. I think it did for Christmas. So I definitely want another game like that because we went 3-1 down in that game, if I remember rightly. I wouldn't mind us being 3-1 up and then with 93 minutes on the clock, that's for sure.
That conceded record, Dimmy, away from home, I didn't realize it was that good. That's good, isn't it? 16 conceded in 17 games.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. I mean, usually away from home, you're not going to have probably the majority of the possession. You're going to be on the back foot having to defend. And yeah, the fact that we're conceding less than a goal a game, and I mean, there's been so many stats this season that has blown us away, and this is another one. Our away form has been sensational, as our home form has been, to be honest. But yeah, we are pretty watertight. I mean, we have been conceding goals lately, but like Craig said, we're not conceding big chunks of goals, and because we're scoring so much, conceding 1 goal here or there is not really hurting us at the moment. Especially
considering 3 of those were against Villa as well. So without that, it was 13 and 16 games. Yeah, it's just not Newcastle, is it? It's just not what Newcastle did. Even when we came 5th back in 2004, I remember that we only won 2 away games or something. So it was basically based on the home form. I remember we weren't very good away from home still. So Eddie's done something special. And as well as those big wins against Fulham and West Ham, we had obviously Southampton was 4-1 and Everton 4-1 as well. So we've been banging the goals in quite a few of these games against lower sort of lower opposition. We beat Leicester 3-0 as well, obviously. So yeah, it's I think it could be looking pretty good. Let's have a look at we'll do the lineups. We'll do Leeds first, since they're the home team. This is what they did against Man City. So I don't know if they're gonna do something similar to this. You'd think they probably would, because Allardyce was sort of having a look at his players. They dropped Melier, so they had Robles in goal, Firpo at left back, Woba. I don't even know who these people are. Christensen, Luke Ayling. He's been around for a long time. He's the captain. He was at right back. Rocker and Weston McKennie. He was on loan from Juventus in midfield. And they had Harrison and Forshaw and Nonto as a front three in behind Bamford. So it's kind of a 4-2-3-1, but it was more like a 4-5, like flat 4-5-1, wasn't it? I think in this game. But Nonto had a really good spell earlier in the season. He looked good, didn't he, for a while, Dimmy? I think he's been capped by Italy as well, so he could be one to watch.
He has. He had a really hot vein of form, I think, in the middle of the season. For about 2 or 3 months, he was on fire. And he's obviously a young kid, so he goes through his ups and downs. And it's obviously hard to sort of perform in a team that's been so poor and in a team that's conceding so many goals. There's not really much that he can do up front or on the wing. But yeah, looking at that team, you're right. There's a lot of players there that definitely don't look Premier League standard and definitely don't look like Big Sam type of players.
And they've got Jack Harrison there, who we were linked quite a lot with last summer, Craig. We'll probably have moved on from him now for this summer with the sort of looking at a higher bracket of player. But he's been good for Leeds, hasn't he? He's quite a decent. He's not a bad little player.
He's not. He's good from the set piece as well. He does kind of buckle under the pressure a little bit. I've seen him where he's been one-on-one with the keeper, or he's been presented with a pretty much open chance of goal, and he's fluffed his lines every now and again. So maybe we dodged a bullet with that one. I suppose we will never know. But yeah, he's definitely a quality player for Leeds. Whether he be a quality player for us is a different matter.
And Bamford came back in from injury. He's had like long injury layoffs. But Rodrigo did come on and scored a goal. So it could be that Rodrigo starts this. But it just depends what Big Sam wants to do and how much he wants to pack the midfield, or, like I said, how much he wants to go for it in the first part of the game. Let's have a look at this. Was your predicted lineup for Newcastle, Dimmy? You've basically gone with the same team that played against Arsenal, and you've still got Wilson and Isak playing up there together. Talk us through your thoughts behind how we might set up.
Yeah, so I think it's hard to judge how Wilson and Isaac did last week. I mean, if you look at the result, it looks like it didn't work. We lost 2-0 and both Wilson and Isaac didn't get on the score sheet. But if you look a bit deeper, I'm not going to go down the XG path, but we still, just watching the game, we still created plenty of chances. And Isaac did look very, very lively. And it's not so much that he's playing that left wing role. He's sort of playing a free role where he goes left, he goes right, he goes in the middle. I mean, that headed chance that he had, he was drifting from the left inside and hit the post with his head. So I think it's a very fluid sort of partnership up there. And especially against a team very low on confidence, I'd really like to see us go for that same lineup again. And Eddie Howe, we've seen all season and really since he's been in charge that even after defeats, he sort of gives the team another chance to perform if they have been disappointing. But I don't think we were that bad last week. So I think Eddie might look at it to say, look, we weren't that bad last week. We played a fantastic Arsenal team who are pushing Man City all the way for the title. So I think, especially with Longy not 100% fit, I wouldn't want to throw him with a dodgy ankle in this game because liable he might get hurt again by one of those butchers at Leeds. So keep the same team and let's see if we can put them on the back foot early and just put them out of their misery.
Yeah, Longstaff was a massive miss against Villa, and he was a miss against Arsenal as well. So it's kind of telling that when he's not there, the team doesn't perform as well. And obviously when Bruno's not there, we don't perform as well. So, but Craig, Eddie's kind of limited what he can do with the midfield because there's no other real options, is there? Unless he wants to put, if he wants to get Joe Linton back out wide, if he wants to put maybe Anderson or Gordon in the middle, but you can't really see him doing that, can you? Because it would probably change the dynamic of the whole team.
I think you put Gordon or Anderson in the middle, it's looking a little bit light in terms of strength. Joe Linton is a man machine and a man mountain as well, and he can just barge through people as if they're not even there. So taking him out of that position would be potentially a bit of a mistake because, as Dimmy mentioned, I think Leeds will be flying in with the tackles. And that, if anything, will probably suit Joe Linton as well because, as we know, he's a physical player. He likes to get the odd yellow card. I think he's the most yellow-carded person in the league this season. So a physical game will only come to his advantage. Putting him out wide, he's not going to have that much of an impact. But big dog up against Luke Ayling, if that's how it's going to be, could be literally as good as he was up against Godfrey against Everton a few weeks where he literally just took the piss. Fingers crossed.
What do you think about Miggy maybe coming in for Murphy? The thing is, isn't it, with when you've got Wilson and Isak both playing, it does take away that option of the bench, like the punch off the bench coming on, which both of them have done really well. But do you think you get a similar lift from Miggy, Craig? Because he has scored 11 goals this season. Or do you think he might be pushing towards a start ahead of Murphy?
I wouldn't really begrudge if either of them started, to be honest. Murphy's done well since Miggy got injured. Scored a few goals, scored a crack against Spuds. And Miggy, he's been in the form of his life. He's had the season of his life. Miggy probably will have an impact in the last 20 minutes because, as we know, you'll chase a chase pack in the wind. That fella, if you ask him, he'll just keep on running. He eats Energizer batteries for breakfast, I'm sure. And just... he's one of those players who you tell him to do something, he will do it. And he listens to Eddie's commands quite good. And he does play one of those triangles with Trips and Bruno. And that's where they can be impactful, where Bruno with those little dink chips that we've seen against Fulham or anything like that. They've got a good understanding. But whether it's a case of this game may come a little bit too early for Miggy to start, it probably will be. Because Murphy's done nothing wrong to be taken out the squad, in my opinion.
And the other thing is we've got Brighton coming up on the Thursday night, Friday morning for us. And then we've got Leicester on the Monday night / Tuesday morning. Were you tempted, Dimmy, to stick Miggy in this, or do you think you'll definitely go with Murphy?
I think you have to go with Murphy, to be honest. I mean, he's hit the post on the weekend. He does seem to like Murphy's... I mean, Miggy's quick as well, but Murphy's got a bit more physicality about him, and he does like the directness and getting the crosses into the box, especially when you've got Wilson coming in there and Willock making late runs and Isak as well. So I think it hasn't been not working. I mean, Murphy hasn't been poor. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, I'd say. And the one guy who might, if he's fit, may play a big part in this game as well is Maxi. I think he's one who we also have a very short memory about how good for how well he was playing before he got injured. So
yeah,
I think this could be a game for him as well. If Eddie goes to rotating that front two, Wilson and Isak, he might say Isak up front, Maxi on the left. That could be an option as well. But yeah, I just can't see him dropping Murphy. The fact that he hasn't been playing poorly, he gives everything for 60, 65 minutes and then he comes off, which is fine. And then Mickey can come on for half an hour and do what he does, like Craig said.
Yeah, and Maxi looked sharp when he came on against Arsenal as well.
he did.
I was just thinking that it would be nice, it'd be crazy nice to see a front three of Wilson, Isak, and Maxi. That would be, you wouldn't think defenders would like that, but I think that would be a bit too gung-ho at this stage. But I wouldn't rule it out. You know, if Eddie thinks that we can really get at them and we can scare them going back that way, I wouldn't be that surprised if maybe he started on the right-hand side, but that would be very, very gung-ho, wouldn't it? It'd be excited to see how that...
It'd be fantastic to see. Apparently, wasn't it Isak and Maxi, they've been working well together whilst they were both injured. They were doing a lot of training together, so they've got this understanding going on, so you never know. It could happen. Stranger things have happened, but yeah, in Eddie we trust, and if he wants to do that, so be it.
And at the same time, you're quite keen to bring him off the bench against tiring defenders with 20 minutes to go. That would give them a bit of a fright as well. All right, so like we were saying, it's hard to predict how this one is going to go in terms of the Leeds tactics or even their system. We know what we're going to do. We're going to be playing the 4-3-3, high intensity, high pressing. I think we're just going to be hoping that our quality can shine through. And I think when you compare the two teams and when you compare, the confidence that they should be in, I think that this could be. I think it could be a comfortable win. I don't like predicting comfortable wins because it makes me nervous, but like I said, I've started to feel better and better through the week about this. The more I've thought about it, I just think we're going to have too much. I think we're going to have too much quality. I can't see us not scoring goals with their defense and with our attack. So let's do some predictions. I've already put my cards on the table here. I think it's going to be. I'm going to say 3-1. I think we're going to score. I think they'll score, but I think we're going to score, and it's going to be a comfortable 3-1, and it's going to be a happy meetup for once, and we're not going to be scared to meet up at the Pig and Whistle anymore, and that's going to be very nice. Craig, prediction?
On the home fixture where we're doing 0-0, I went 5-0 Newcastle wins, and I got that one completely wrong. So I'm going to go for 4-1 this time, same as the Everton result.
4-1 would be good. That would be the third 4-1 of the season? No, fourth 4-1 away win of the season.
Yeah, that'd
be very, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Dimmy prediction? Nostradimmy?
Nostradimmy, yeah. Nostradimmy been struggling lately, but look, law of averages, I'm going to get one right sooner or later. And I think in terms of averages, I think we're due to keep a clean sheet. So I'm going to go clean sheet, and then we're going to score 3. So 3-0 victory and a happy Newcastle meetups around Australia.
That 3-0 win or any win would be amazing, but especially if we've got a quite a comfortable one. Just before we finish, I want to. This is what another thing we've been obsessing over is that Keegan's told us off for this about talking too much about the Champions League, but basically, we need to get 71 points to make sure that we're not below Liverpool, unless they get a better goal difference. We need 7 more points to confirm it completely. So 7 points from 4 games. Liverpool are only 3 points behind us now, but they've played a game extra. Man United have lost 2 away games on the bounce. So they're 2 points behind us, and they've still got 4 games to play as well. Although their fixtures look quite good. They've got Wolves at home, Bournemouth away, Chelsea home is the game in hand, and Fulham at home. Liverpool's fixtures they've got Leicester away, which is on Monday night in the UK, and then they've got Villa at home, and they've got Southampton away. Obviously, we've got Leeds away, we've got the game in hand against Brighton, and then we've got Leicester at home, and then we've got Chelsea away. Brighton could still do it mathematically, but they've got very hard fixtures. They've got Arsenal away. They've got to come to St James's Park. Then they've got Southampton at home. Then they've got Man City at home, and then they've got Villa away. So it'll take a massive effort for them to do it. I've been looking at this for sort of and working out the permutations for the last sort of probably about 4 or 5 weeks now. It's really getting to the business end of the season. If we can get 3 points against Leeds, I'll feel so much better. If Liverpool could just drop some points, or if they could stop getting the rub of the green from the officials and the decisions they've been getting, I feel so much better. But I think we're in with a decent chance of third, actually, because Man United seem to be struggling, although they do have good home form. Mm-hmm. We're going to be doing this in every podcast we do sort of between now and the end of the season. But what do you think? What do you think, Dimmy, from this stage? We could get a potential of 77 points. How many points do you think we're going to get from these last 4 games?
I'm going to say we're going to get maximum points. I'm going 4 from 4. I think my predictions at the end of last season were pretty good, and I'd like to see how I did that latter prediction we did mid-season or at the break. I think I had us on 71 or 72 points at the end of the season, so we're coming up pretty close to that. But I think there's no reason why we can't win all 4 games, to be honest. I think Chelsea are checked out, so that last game could be a freebie. Brighton obviously are struggling, and obviously Leeds is a huge game as well, and Leicester, but you just can't not back us, and we've been in such good form all season. We do get on runs when we get a few wins on board, and obviously everyone's nervous because Liverpool's 3 points behind, but they're actually 4 points behind because of the goal difference. So I don't really count that 3 points. It's 4. So I'm confident we can get 12, definitely.
Craig, we could have more or less sealed this. If results go our way this weekend, we could have more or less sealed it. But realistically, if we beat Leeds, we've got the Brighton game coming up. That would be 71 points, which Liverpool couldn't then beat, and we would have won. We would have won those 2 games, so the goal difference won't have taken a hit from there either. What do you think, Craig, of these last remaining games? How many of these 12 points do you think we're going to get, and when do you think we're going to seal Champions League?
I think it'll all be confirmed come the final whistle of the Brighton game, but obviously we'll want to get that extra point to get to 72 just to make it confirmed. I think we'll get 10 points out of the remaining 12. We'll win the next 3 and draw Chelsea.
Right. That Chelsea game's not going to matter by then. No one's going to care about that. But I'm looking forward to just not having to stress about this anymore. It's been stressful. It's a
good stress, though.
It's a good stress. And like I said on another pod, when you've been relegated previously, you don't care and you hate everyone. But now you're so desperate for it because we're so close to it. So we'll see how things go. But 3 points out the weekend would be a huge step towards this. I don't think that we're going to feel buckle under pressure. I don't think this group and I don't think this manager is going to allow that to happen. So I think they've got their eye on the prize. I think they know what's at stake. And I think against Leeds, like I said, I think our quality is going to shine through. And I think that we will confirm it mathematically against Leicester. I think we might get a draw against Brighton and then beat Leicester. And it's going to be so good. I can go to sleep for a bit and stop worrying about whether we're going to get in the Champions League or not, and we can start looking forward to next season.
What's really annoying is, though, that Leicester game for us, it's a midweek kickoff, I think it is.
Tuesday morning, I think.
Tuesday morning.
So we've got to go to work that morning, knowing that we're qualified for the Champions League, where everybody else back home can get straight on the lash and get smashed with a banging hangover. We got to go to work. I might just call in sick that morning and just go straight to the pub.
I thought we got a public holiday, don't we? We're not saying that we get a public holiday for it when we get in the Champions League.
The Toon under public holiday here in Australia. That's what it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Victoria's probably got one anyway. They've always got public holidays.
Hopefully.
Anyway, that'll do. Cheers, boys. Like I said, we've got the meetups. And you're doing the watch along as well, Craig? Sorry, I forgot to mention. Yep. Craig, Lee, and Bobby are going to be doing the watch along. So do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so the watch along starts half an hour before kickoff. So we'll be talking lineups, potential formations, team strategies, and predicted results from the other two. You've already had mine today. And then we're doing live commentary throughout the game, talking about halftime analysis. And then shortly afterwards, we will be doing a recorded after-match review. That normally will drop maybe an hour or so after the game is finished. So keep an eye on that and hit that notification button. Let me know when that goes live this Saturday afternoon for everyone back in the UK and this Saturday evening for everyone here in Australia.
Maybe even a little crossover at the pubs. That'd be a good idea, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
We'll do one of these live things when we're all in the pubs all around Australia. That'd be good. All right, Dimmy, enjoy your meetup with Keegan. Try and keep your shirt on. Actually, no, don't take it off because it means we've scored 3 goals.
Yes.
Enjoy.
When you got your shirt off, like.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Thanks, Craig. Good luck with getting the Mackay supporters group set up.
Will do.
I'll speak to you both soon. Cheers, boys.
Cheers,
lads.
See ya.